It begins not with a scream, not with a cry for help, but with something far more ordinary, a search bar. On a quiet night in a small American town, a man sits in front of his laptop. The room is dim, the blue glow of the screen casting sharp shadows across his face. He types in questions, strange, bone-chilling, almost unbelievable questions. Queries no ordinary person would ever think to ask unless something terrible was on their mind. How long before a body starts to smell? How to dismember a human safely? Can law enforcement track Google searches? These weren't scenes from a horror movie. They were real. And the man behind those searches wasn't a faceless stranger. He was the ex-boyfriend of a young woman who, just days later, would vanish without a trace. Her name was Emily Carter, 27 years old, bright, ambitious, and loved by friends and family who now describe her as the kind of person who lit up any room she entered. But Emily's light would soon be extinguished in one of the most disturbing crimes to grip the nation in recent years. This case wasn't just about a disappearance. It wasn't just about a breakup gone wrong. It was about obsession, control, and an unimaginable act of violence that shocked even the most hardened detectives. And at the center of it all, a trail of digital breadcrumbs that revealed a killer's mind in horrifying detail. Tonight, we're diving deep into the chilling story of Emily Carter's disappearance, the disturbing Google searches made by her ex, and the gruesome truth investigators would later uncover. This isn't just a crime story. It's a descent into the darkest corners of human behavior. But before we peel back those layers, I want you to imagine something. Imagine you're Emily. You've broken things off with someone you thought you once loved. You've moved on, or at least you're trying to. Life feels uncertain, but you're hopeful about the future. Then, one day, you vanish. No warnings, no goodbyes. And the only clue left behind isn't a witness or a surveillance camera, but a string of terrifying Google searches typed by the person who once swore they loved you. As the investigation unfolded, detectives would piece together a story that was more twisted, more haunting, and more tragic than anyone could have imagined. The chilling details would raise one unavoidable question. How well do we ever really know the people closest to us? This is the case of the man accused of killing and dismembering his ex-girlfriend, a case where the truth was hidden not in the shadows, but in plain sight, inside the cold lines of a search engine history. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear will not only shock you, it will make you question just how much of yourself you reveal to the internet, and how much of that can be used against you when darkness strikes. Emily Carter's disappearance began the way many modern missing person cases do, with silence. On a crisp October morning, Emily didn't show up for work. Her friends sent her texts. First, they were casual. "Hey, are you running late?" Then, more concerned, "Emily, are you okay?" By mid-afternoon, those unanswered messages turned into frantic calls. And by evening, her parents, who hadn't heard from her either, knew something was wrong. Emily wasn't the type to go off the grid. Her family filed a missing persons report that night. Police began the routine process, checking her apartment, calling friends, retracing her last known steps. But something felt off almost immediately. Her phone was left behind, her car still parked in her building's lot, her purse sitting neatly inside her bedroom. It was as though Emily had simply evaporated. Detectives canvassed the area. Neighbors reported hearing muffled noises late at night, but couldn't say for sure where they came from. One woman recalled seeing Emily's ex-boyfriend, Ryan Mitchell, lurking around the complex earlier that week. The breakup between Emily and Ryan hadn't been friendly. Friends described him as jealous, controlling, and unwilling to let go. When detectives knocked on Ryan's door, he was calm. Too calm. He insisted he hadn't seen Emily in weeks. He said he had no idea where she was. His alibi? He claimed he was home alone, scrolling through the internet and watching movies. But what investigators didn't know at that moment was that Ryan wasn't just scrolling the internet. He was typing out some of the most disturbing questions they had ever come across in a criminal investigation. Questions that, once discovered, would turn him from concerned ex into the prime suspect in Emily's disappearance. Meanwhile, the search for Emily intensified. Volunteers joined police in combing nearby woods, rivers, and abandoned buildings. Flyers with her face plastered across them flooded gas stations, coffee shops, and social media feeds. Her smile, once so familiar, was now a haunting reminder of the urgency to bring her home. For Emily's parents, every hour felt like an eternity. They begged the public for help, their voices breaking on live television. "If anyone knows anything, please, please come forward," her mother pleaded. Their pain resonated across the community, but answers remained elusive. Then came the break investigators had been waiting for. While reviewing Ryan's phone and laptop, detectives stumbled onto his search history, and what they found sent chills down the spines of even the most seasoned officers. The Google searches were explicit, graphic, beyond comprehension. Ryan had been researching methods of dismemberment. He had looked up how to clean up large amounts of blood. He even searched for the best way to hide a body without being caught. The timing of those searches? Just hours before Emily was last seen alive. For investigators, this wasn't just suspicious, it was damning. Every keystroke painted a picture of premeditation, of cold calculation, of a man preparing to commit an unthinkable act. Detectives now knew Emily hadn't just disappeared. Something far darker had happened, and the man who claimed to love her most might have been the one responsible for her brutal end. But this was only the beginning, because the deeper they dug into Ryan's digital footprint, the more terrifying the truth became. The search history told a story more haunting than any detective could have imagined. Investigators stared at Ryan Mitchell's laptop screen, scrolling through entry after entry, each one darker, colder, and more calculated than the last. Can you get away with murder if there's no body? How long before a human body starts to smell? What chemical dissolves flesh the fastest? And then, perhaps the most gut-wrenching of all, how to dismember a human body. Each search was time-stamped. Each search, like a breadcrumb, led back to the exact hours Emily Carter vanished. It wasn't just morbid curiosity. It was a blueprint, a digital confession typed out one horrifying question at a time. Detectives felt their stomachs turn. These weren't the ramblings of a man grieving or confused. This was preparation. Meticulous, deliberate preparation. Armed with a search warrant, police tore apart Ryan's apartment. The spotless living room suddenly didn't look so ordinary. It looked staged, too clean. The faint smell of bleach lingered in the air, clinging to the carpet. Beneath the couch, a single dark stain, the size of a hand, refused to disappear. Forensic testing later confirmed what detectives already feared. It was blood. Human blood. In the bathroom, they found rubber gloves, an empty bottle of industrial-strength cleaner, and a serrated knife tucked into a cabinet. While the blade had been washed, traces of blood remained, too microscopic for the human eye, but impossible to erase under forensic lights. Neighbors came forward with eerie accounts. One swore she heard what sounded like heavy thuds late into the night, followed by the sharp whine of a power tool. Another described seeing Ryan carry several large black trash bags to his car, his face pale, his movements rushed. When police asked where those bags went, Ryan had no answer. But then came another damning piece of evidence: security footage. A grainy camera from a gas station captured Ryan just after midnight, purchasing cleaning supplies, heavy-duty garbage bags, and duct tape. The timestamp matched the very hours Emily vanished. For investigators, the puzzle pieces were snapping together, one by one. And every single one pointed to the same conclusion. Emily had not simply disappeared. She had been brutally murdered. The community, once filled with hope, now trembled as these details trickled out. The image of Ryan Mitchell, once the heartbroken ex-boyfriend, was shattered. In its place stood the portrait of a man capable of something unspeakable. But the most chilling discovery wasn't found in his apartment or in the gas station footage. It came from deep within his internet history, a final set of searches that revealed the true darkness of his mind. Best hiding places for body parts. How to make someone disappear forever. Does dismemberment make identification impossible? Each question was a dagger into the hearts of Emily's family, who were still clinging to the faint hope that she might be alive. The truth was now undeniable. Ryan Mitchell hadn't just taken Emily's life. He had mapped out every step, every detail, with the precision of someone who believed he could outsmart everyone. But investigators were about to prove him wrong. Because while Ryan thought his secrets were hidden in the shadows of the internet, he underestimated the one truth every detective knows: the digital world never forgets. Weeks had passed since Emily's disappearance. Hope was fading, but investigators refused to stop. They knew Ryan Mitchell's search history and the blood in his apartment told a horrific story. But without Emily's body, the case would be harder to prove. Then came the break no one wanted, but everyone expected. A local hiker, walking along a wooded trail just outside the city, noticed something strange near a shallow creek. A black trash bag, torn at the corner, with something pale protruding from the rip. At first, he thought it was garbage, until he looked closer. What he saw sent him sprinting to call 911. When detectives arrived, their worst fears were confirmed. Inside the bags were human remains, dismembered, carefully wrapped, and weighed down with stones. The chilling precision matched the exact searches Ryan had made online. It was Emily. The discovery broke the community. Candlelight vigils turned into raw grief. Posters that once read "missing" were now memorials. Her parents, who had prayed for a miracle, collapsed under the weight of knowing their daughter's final moments had been stolen in such a brutal way. With the remains recovered, police had what they needed. Ryan Mitchell was arrested outside his apartment. Neighbors described the scene as surreal. Ryan, calm as ever, handcuffed as flashing lights lit up the night sky. Reporters swarmed, microphones shoved forward as he was led into a squad car. He said nothing. The trial became a national spectacle. Prosecutors laid out the evidence in painstaking detail. The Google searches, the forensic blood samples, the security footage, and now the body. Every piece pointed to premeditated murder. But it was the chilling language in Ryan's own searches that struck the courtroom silent. The prosecutor read them aloud one by one, each more disturbing than the last, the words echoing through the chamber like a confession. Jurors shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Emily's parents wept. Even seasoned detectives admitted later that they had never seen such cold calculation so clearly laid out. Ryan's defense team scrambled, suggesting the searches were fantasies, not actions. They claimed the evidence was circumstantial, that no one had seen him commit the crime. But the jury didn't need a witness. Ryan himself had been his own witness, his own scribe, documenting his every intention through a keyboard. In closing arguments, the prosecutor drove the point home. These were not random searches. These were instructions. He asked the internet how to kill, how to cut, how to conceal, and then he did exactly that. Emily Carter's death was not an accident. It was planned, it was executed, and it was hidden, until the truth broke free. The jury deliberated for just 6 hours. When they returned, the courtroom was silent, everyone holding their breath. Guilty. The word echoed, final and heavy. Ryan Mitchell was sentenced to life without parole. For Emily's family, there was no justice strong enough to erase their pain. But at least they had answers. At least the man who had stolen their daughter could never hurt anyone again. And yet, one haunting detail lingered. Even after the verdict, investigators revealed that Ryan had dozens of searches saved in drafts, questions he hadn't yet typed into Google, questions about how to erase digital footprints, how to disappear without a trace. It was as though, in his mind, Emily's murder had been only the beginning